Wax Thief, welcome. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Good. It's the long weekend here, and it's like 33 degrees or something. So, yeah, it's a beautiful day.
So, where are you from? Who are you?
Well, my name's Tom. I grew up in Sydney. I moved to Melbourne probably about 5 years ago um, for my full time job at the moment. I've got a corporate gig in marketing and sales. And yeah, never really thought music was going to be a thing. So, Backseat is pretty new. It's only like 2 years old.
So, did you go to uni for marketing, or have you always had something to do with music, or is it just in the last 2 years that you've started Wax Thief and all of this music stuff?
I've been producing forever. I'm 27 at the moment. So I started when I was probably about 15, I think. Yeah, I was year seven. I got my first pair of decks. It was, I guess they would be the 200s now, the Pioneer ones, but they were the DDJ Wegos, is what they're called at the moment, long discontinued. So I started DJing in year seven and then producing pretty much the year afterwards because I thought, yeah, I wanted to take it to the next level. So I've always loved music. Yeah, my parents had videos of me dancing the Wiggles when I was like, 4 or 5. I had another alias before Wax Thief. I was making kind of like, this is the 2010s when everyone wanted to be Flume. So I was making a lot of like Flumey stuff, a lot of love trap, which is a genre at the time. And yeah, it never really kicked off. I got like a couple hundred plays on songs. Um, and so, yeah, I just kind of thought, oh, well, that was fun. I'll keep DJing. I'll keep being a music fan. And yeah, focused on uni, studied marketing and science. And then lockdown happened in Melbourne, and you just have a lot of time. Your life kind of gets turned upside down because I moved from Sydney. I didn't really know a lot of people in Melbourne, so I kind of had to start scratch during lockdown, which wasn't easy in Melbourne, particularly. I think they had the most lockdowns in the world. So yeah, I kind of picked up music again then, and discovered garage at that point in like 2020, 2021, and then thought, far out, if I just give it a crack, maybe I could make something of it. Just see if I could. And that's what I did. I started Wax Thief and I started trying to make something of music again, and yeah, got really lucky.
That is so crazy. So you said that your parents have videos of you um dancing with the Wiggles. Like, do you have
Yeah.
musical parents? Like, are they supportive? Like, starting to DJ in year seven is a big deal. Like, did they influence you to start making music?
No, they're the least creative people I think I know. And I find it really funny because I've got some friends who have, like incredibly creative parents. I just did a back to back with my bro Robust from Sydney, and his dad is like this amazing like soul bass player in all these bands and stuff, and so really gave him this like super insight into like soul music early on. My parents weren't that at all. My parents are both accountants, so they definitely influenced me to get into kind of the focus on uni, do that sort of stuff. They super supportive of all my music. I Whenever I go back to Sydney, I'll be sitting at the kitchen table, working on some tunes or something, and I'll play it out loud, and they'll go, "Oh, that's good." My mum's a big fan of Top Killer; she streams that all the time. But my dad doesn't get it. They don't really like dance music, so I'll play it out for them, and he's like, "Oh, it's a bit repetitive," or stuff like that. So,
Well,
but
Top
anyway.
Killer definitely is a banger. When you were DJing, like at a really early age, like you said that you got into UKG around 2021. What were you DJing before that? Like, was it like Imagine Dragons, like Avicii? What were you
It
DJing?
was a lot of Avicii. I got really lucky, I think, and a lot of my mates I talked to who produce for people who are kind of big now. It doesn't happen overnight. Most people have been kind of doing this for a number of years, or are fans of music for a number of years. So for me, it was EDM, the kind of the golden years of Tomorrowland. So I was the biggest fan of like Avicii and Hardwell, particularly Hardwell. I would watch all of his like Tomorrowland DJ sets, and I would like study all the transitions, and I would try to download all the IDs, try to make mashups and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and Martin Garrix was a big fan of like how he kind of changed the genre a little bit and made um, that big room house sound. So yeah, that was kind of my intro to it. But it took me a really long time to kind of find a genre that I really, really loved, because EDM was great, and then I kind of shifted from there into more house music and deep house. So people like Shami um, and Marla. That's kind of like future house sound that was really big in probably the 2012 to 2014 ish. Yeah, and then this like floomy sound kind of came about, and that became really popular. People were making that, a lot of like Jersey house, things like that. So I really liked that. I liked the scene there. Sydney had a really good scene at the time as well. Yeah, then it was just kind of like back into house music. If I didn't discover garage, I think I probably would be making like disco edits, because I really love like that style of like that like chopped up disco sample, really like happy stuff, which probably plays through a little bit with my productions. Like most of my songs, I want it to be kind of like, I don't know, a club classic or something that's a bit on the happier side.
Well, I definitely say that. Like are much you have a much bigger focus on melody than other people that are sort of in your lane at the same time. Like I feel like you really have a knack for melody in the songs that I've been listening to. So you were saying that, UKG, disco, EDM. Who are your big like inspirations then?
I've got three. Definitely, number one is Interplanetary Criminal. I'm notorious for screen recording his stories for like some ID which you'll not hear. Like genuinely, I've got a whole bunch which I've like haven't heard since. I'm not sure if they'll ever get released or anything like that. But I love his unapologetically poppy stuff. That's the real like where I'd love to push into. Kind of make songs that are club friendly, that will get all sorts of people dancing. So that's probably my number one inspiration. It's also really clubby tracks, but they've got a really happy side to it, and really catchy. Prozac is probably also very similar for the reasons why I love his stuff. I listened to his most recent Rinse mix, and you can kind of hear his production, which I think is really cool to be able to have a sound which is distinctly yours, and people can hear a song and go, oh yeah, that's definitely Prozac's. So I asked him for a couple of IDs from that set, and oh my god, they're amazing. And Silver Bumper would probably be my next biggest inspiration, just because his stuff is he's so creative. He's probably the most unique producer in the UK garage scene, just because every single one of his songs, it's completely new sounds. They're pushing the boundaries. They're completely different. Because I think it's a genre. It's got a lot of characteristics, like dub sirens or respaces, or the certain drum patterns, which it's really easy to recreate. And we're at the point now where it's getting popular, and a lot of people are churning stuff out. So I really look at Silver Bumper stuff and go, how can I do something that will make it different, to keep it fresh? And he's probably the best at that I know of.
And like you saying that you can really identify certain artists by their sound. Like obviously you've been making music forever, but like you have a really, really distinct sound. When I've been like putting my Spotify DJ on or whatever, I can immediately tell if it's one of your songs, because it has really strong emphasis on melody. Just on a little side note, where did your name come from, Wax Thief?
I get asked this a fair bit. It's not deep at all. With a marketing background, I used to work for this marketing consultancy agency, and they would do these name ideation sessions for brands for all sorts. So like you'd get a brand in, they'll tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we would sit down in a room with like a whiteboard, and you'd just write up like keywords and stuff, and then you'd start to pair keywords to create like names, or just to throw ideas out. And so I was kind of doing the same sort of thing for Wax Thief, because at the time I was still tossing up between whether I keep my old alias name, because I had I think maybe 200 followers on SoundCloud or something, so not a lot, but I thought that would probably be all I'd get to with Wax Thief. So I was like, oh, do I keep this? I just started writing out all these names of things that kind of were genre adjacent, and garage has got a lot of like street culture, or there's artists like, in Planetary Criminal I was mentioning before, so I was writing down criminal, bandit, thief, all that. And then I was DJing vinyl at the time, and I wanted to, to pay homage to that kind of like 90s sound, which is where the genre really started from, like drawing inspiration from that. So yeah, I was writing vinyl record. So it was like, it could be Record Bandit, and then I said Wax Thief, and my housemate was like, you know what, man, like that's good enough. Like just don't overthink it. It literally could be anything. And I was like, okay. I looked at the socials and nothing was taken. So that's the next big check mark if it's searchable and it's not already taken. So I was like, okay, that will do. And you just kind of have to live with it.
That's so funny. So what was your old name before that?
That's a deep secret. I'm not sure I should say.
Really?
No, it's called XY.
Okay.
And it was a bit of a science joke because, I in life sciences and biology. It's XY. There was a lot of like Jamie XX, XXYYXX, the XX, UV boy, all of that sort of like something something boy or something something. So it was it's XY as in like XY chromosomes, and it was spelt out. And it was very like flume era, or everyone was wearing a mask at the time. So I think all my photos were very like Tumblr, and it was like hiding my face. Yeah, it was all very cringe. I showed a friend it a couple years ago, and he said, "Yeah, that's so 2010s. Wax Stick needed to kind of come about. I just don't think it would have worked the same."
Yeah, I agree. I think Wax Thief is much more catchy. Tracks like Top Killer and Turn Up the Sound, they really are total tunes. What is your process for making music? Or what software do you use? Do you kind of just get in there and tinker around, or do you have a process?
Yeah, I use Ableton, and inspiration kind of can really strike at any time. Yeah, I get really hard on myself if I haven't made anything in like a couple of weeks, which at the moment I'm in kind of that phase. I haven't done anything for probably about 2 weeks. So you really just have to kind of grab inspiration when it hits. And it is tough juggling a full-time job and music as well, because, I get home from work and it's like 6 o'clock, and the last thing you want to do is stare at your laptop after you've been looking at your laptop for 6 hours. The weekends, I try to do a lot of stuff on the weekends, or, try to get in the studio to get inspiration from other producers as well. But really I just kind of sit down and just tinker until something kind of strikes. I find starting with vocals really easy, but at the moment I'm trying to shift away from relying on Splice or other royalty-free sample sites and working more with original vocalists, because that's what kind of takes it to the next level and makes the song truly original. So there's no real secret, I guess. It's just keep grinding away, and then you'll have 100 ideas, and then hopefully one of them's all right, and then out of those, 100 of those might be terrible, and then maybe one of them will be actually a good song. So you just kind of need to sit down and dedicate as much time as you can to tinkering and working on it, and hopefully something comes out of it.
Are you the kind of person who will make like 100 different songs, a song a day kind of person, or are you the type that likes to spend a lot of time on one song?
I think I'd like to be in the middle ground, and I think I hopefully I am, because it is because it is so easy now to put stuff out, and you just get a couple of the iconic sample packs, and then suddenly you've got all the sounds that every big artist uses for speed garage songs. So it's not hard to have a template and just churn out songs, but that's not how I work. I like starting on something fresh every time, and thinking about my inspirations of Silver Bumper, Interplanetary Criminal. I'll try to make everything intentional. And if I'm not liking it, I tend to abandon a project pretty quick. But I need to finish a song almost within the first like 2 or 3 sittings, particularly if you get into a flow. Because if you're in a flow, again, as I kind of mentioned earlier about finding the inspiration, you need to kind of grab it when it's available, especially for me, because I don't know, my attention span's short or something. So if I don't grab onto that inspiration when it comes, and if I don't finish the song in like 2 sittings, like 80% of the time I'll never be able to finish it. So the song I just finished a couple of days back, I've been sitting on for like 3 months or something, and I was just stuck. And it's just, when you hear something too much, it's very hard to get out of, in my mind, get out of that loop of hearing it how it is. So I try to be purposeful with the songs I write, not churn out too much, and then finish it. If I'm on a roll, like, you kind of have to just sit down and finish it.
And you were talking about how you wanted to start using your own like recording your own vocals? Like, are you planning on writing lyrics? Like, are you becoming a lyricist, or you want to work with somebody who's an established songwriter and vocalist already?
It's like miraculous sometimes. I got contacted by a really talented singer um, the other day, who I never thought I would be in the league of kind of speaking to, but this guy reached out, and he was like, "Yeah, if you've got any tracks you want top line vocals for, yeah, send me some projects." So I sent him this one, which I thought would suit his sound really well, and I had been kind of slowly accumulating a couple of projects, which I will have available in case singers like this kind of pop up, or so that I can send to a singer and say, "Hey, here's a couple of things, see which one works for you, and then we can work together on that." And yeah, send it off to him, and he sent me back something in a couple of days, and I was so nervous to open it, and I always am, when you get back vocals, because you've had it kind of in your mind for a while, and sometimes you've got like a royalty-free vocal in there, and so it sounds a certain way, and you send it to them without that, and they can take a completely different direction. I was really nervous. I was in the car, and I was like, no, okay, I'm going to give it a listen. And so I listened to it with fresh ears, and it was like honestly mind blowing, like such a cool take, and he definitely nailed it. So working with a really talented lyricist and songwriter is just so easy. I definitely think that would help with inspiration as well. I think ultimately, if I could make music full time, I'd love to get in studios with really talented musicians and songwriters and just like write proper songs, like even write pop songs. I think would be really fun to do. I've got a couple of projects in the works with some singers, a couple of really big ones. None of them are finished yet, so I won't name drop anyone. But yeah, hopefully I'll have a couple soon to share.
All right, I was just going to ask you that. Is there any hints that you can give us?
No, not yet. You can't count your chickens before they hatch. It's one thing I've learned in this industry, because particularly after Chop Killer kind of blew off, I had a couple of big labels and people like that reach out. Everything kind of moves so fast. So yeah, I've had plenty of things that I thought were going to be big opportunities, and then, either wasn't a right fit, or the song that they really like, maybe they just listen to it too much, or they've just got such a backlog of releases. So yeah, you can't unfortunately count your chickens before they hatch, because there's so many opportunities like that just, everything's very last minute, I think, particularly in garage and dance music, because a lot of these people are running their own labels. They don't have big resources like big labels do.
On the topic of new music, you just dropped a new track. It's called Pull Up Dat. It's really got that signature UKG wax thief beat, but it feels different. What is different about this song?
It's one I've been sitting on for a little while now, and I just really wanted to get it out quick as possible, because I feel like, everything evolves so quickly in terms of the sound at the moment, and I think the big speed garage stuff, the brew spaces, and big whoopers like this are kind of slowly starting to become less and less popular. A lot of the guys I work with and I'm close friends with are doing a lot more kind of techie sounds, or they call it techie. It's sounding a lot more tech house. Yeah, a lot more stripped back. The drums aren't as big, but they're very punchy. So this is quite a typical speed garage track. I really love bassline as a genre, particularly bassline house, which kind of came out of the Midlands and the north of the UK after UK garage kind of shifted from that speed garage sound into the two-step in London and the south. So this is a bit bassliney as well. I try to make it sound a little bit bassliney, and I'm actually working on a wobbly bassline remix of it as a VIP, which might be fun to drop if I finally finish it. I will do a little bit more kind of heavy club stuff, particularly because I found most of the really happy stuff I was putting out over this period, the last couple of months in the UK in particular, all the labels wanted to focus on like heavy club tracks, because I guess that was what they were all playing out in the clubs, a bit more techie sound. Yeah, so I have made it a little bit more heavy. It's very short and it's very high energy, kind of like the whole way through.
It actually feels a little bit like, especially the vocals with this different beat, it feels a little bit like a Skepta track to me. And it has, the cover art has that similar like ultraviolet camera look that Skepta's most recent album, Ignorance is Bliss, has. Is this like aesthetic change, you entering into a different era? Like, who did the cover art for this, and who's been doing your cover art previously?
So that is Enzo, his name, and I've tagged him in the post as well. He does a lot of the posters for the clubs here in Melbourne, particularly Nerve. He does pretty much all of their posters. I knew this song was going to be kind of hard and a little bit different to some of the other stuff, so I wanted the cover art to be hard. And you're right, it has got that Skepta vibe as well, which is definitely kind of what I was going at. The other guy who's done it as well is Bush Baby. So when I put together kind of like a bit of an inspiration pack for Enzo to take, I sent him a couple of these. All of the colors were quite dark and quite kind of, yeah, the sort of colors you'd expect for lights at a club or something like that. And then we were playing with some ideas, and he sent through this protest riot footage. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Maybe we can do something along that line. And yeah, then he sent through like the face mask, the guy pulling on the balaclava. And I thought that kind of suited the lyrics a little bit as well. So yeah, we went with that. I'm not going to say it's shifting to a new era of my sound, but I definitely want to branch out a little bit, because I do like, particularly when you play at clubs, the real heavy bassy stuff is what people really like. I tend to start my sets with that sort of sound and then go into lighter, like bassline house tunes or a bit more housey stuff at the end. So yeah, I hope it's just start of me kind of branching out maybe and diversifying a little bit more, getting a couple of different sounds under my belt.
Speaking of, labels wanting this more heavier club sound, and you wanting to emulate that club feeling with the art on this record, how do you want people to experience your music generally? Like, is it for the club? Is it for the festival? Is it in the car on the way to their 9 to 5?
When I was in uni, I worked at a techno nightclub. There was a guy who I worked with who was the biggest techno fan, like hard techno. And I was like, surely you can't listen to that on the bus into work. And he's like, oh yeah, I listen to it all the time. And since then, I definitely have become that person. I think I listen to other genres outside of dance music, but dance music tends to be the main genre I listen to. I would like the songs to be able to be enjoyed everywhere, but at the end of the day, what I love about dance music is the feeling it gives you to move. And this is what I tell my parents as well, because they're like, oh, it's a bit, Dad will listen to a song and he said, oh, it's a bit repetitive, or I'm not sure I like that. And I'm like, well, it's kind of the wrong context, Dad, because we're around the kitchen, we're not really doing anything. So ultimately, I want people to dance to it and to feel like they can dance to it. And if people enjoy that in the car, then that's also cool. But I think that's what dance music always been about, right? It's been for the clubs. Not every song will be the biggest dance floor filler. Most of the songs I'm writing, I'm thinking of it as a dance track. And I think that helps. If you think of it as a DJ in terms of selecting a song or how it's going to like play to the crowd or how the crowd reacts, things like that. I think that really helps with the songwriting process and creating that groove and how you can kind of mix up the sound so that it stays interesting.
And you were saying that you don't always listen to dance music. So who are like your favorite musicians that aren't dance?
So I listen to a lot of classical because I did clarinet at high school. That was kind of my foray into like music theory. So that's helped a lot in terms of, I couldn't tell you what notes were in a scale or a certain chord or anything like that, but I do know what sounds in key and not. So that has definitely been a big help. I listen to a lot of reggae, which is kind of, inspires a lot of that speed garage or garage sound. It's very heavily influenced from reggae. Really, my number one genre aside from dance music is Afrobeat, like Fireboy, and all of those fantastic Nigerian singers. It is in itself, it's got a lot of dance elements to it. And one thing that a lot of that genre of music does really well is creating that groove with their drum patterns. Yeah, so I love that that kind of sound.
You wouldn't be able to tell by looking at you that you have such diverse music taste. There you go. I feel like some of these, particularly electronic producers, like they're pretty strictly, like they listen to a wide variety of dance music and then the stuff that they sample in their dance music, but not that much outside of that.
I think it helps so much. Like even listening to pop songs, or I love like indie rock. Australia's got a really good kind of like indie rock scene. So I was tempted to do like a pop rock alias. I was pretty close to, but I was terrible at guitar and I can't sing. I was trying to process my vocals pretty heavily and it sounded pretty trash. So, but yeah, Spacey Jane, people like that. Got to sample other music tastes because they will do things really well. And I think if you can actively listen to songs and pick the things out that you really like, and whether it's like the use of melody or use of kind of call and response, those sort of things, you can take in if you put in a different context of like dance music, they can work really well and it makes it really fresh.
This new single, is this a sign of something bigger? Is there a body of work on the way?
Yeah, that's the next big step, is do an EP. Just because it's very different to releasing singles. I really love like sitting down and listening to someone's whole album because, you know, every song's kind of intentional, and when they flow together, it's not just a collection of singles. They can be really good whole bodies of work. So that's something I'm working towards. I think now that I've just finished this last track, I think I have enough to put forward. You know, I've spoken to Osmosis Jones, he's done amazing things for me in terms of, he was the first person to ever pick up Top Killer and hear the potential in it, and then he played it out. Decided he wanted to release it on In the House, and then the rest is kind of history. So the release would not be the release it was if it wasn't for Osmosis Jones and his connection into the industry and just his belief. So I have really wanted to work on a In the House EP. We'll see if that happens. Yeah, it will be up to him whether he likes the songs or not. But yeah, I've got a couple of different things different directions I could take it. I've got a couple more kind of clubby songs, which would be really nice to package together. Or I've got a few kind of more Top Killer vibes, which would be amazing to do as kind of like a baseline house sound if kind of people are ready for that yet, because it's still a bit new as a sound. It kind of hasn't quite shifted there yet. So maybe that's something I'll sit on and wait for a little bit. I'm also working with a really talented local house producer called Johan Sterling. That's his alias. He makes some really fun house tunes. So he asked me to remix one of his songs and I really loved it. He was like, "Oh, how much do I owe you for this?" And I said, "No, don't worry. We're going to release this. This is going to be sick." Like, I actually love making it so much. He came over, we worked on another song. So we have two now. And then we've just been sending projects back and forth. So we're pretty close, I think, as well, to have kind of like a bit of a housey, a bit more kind of Carl Starkey, Bella Claxton, Sam Alfred style of like that festival house music, or acid house is what a lot of people are kind of calling that sound, like new tone, people like that as well. So yeah, we could have like a bit more of a housey EP too. So yeah, I'm sitting on a lot. I just need to figure out what the best way to put it all out is, because, you know, people have short attention spans. So sometimes singles will get more traction, or timing is really important as well, which is kind of hate that I have to start thinking about these sort of things, because the right song released the wrong way or with the wrong label would completely change it, right? I think if Top Killer wasn't released on In the House, if I just put it out myself, it never would have done what it did. So there's definitely, unfortunately, a bit of a strategy behind kind of the music industry and putting songs out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, either way, I think that Top Killer is really an amazing song, and I think it would have done numbers regardless. But I just have one more quick question. What's next for you career-wise? Is there a bit of a tour in the works?
I would love to do a tour. I'd love to do a UK tour. At the moment, I've said to people, because I had a couple of people asking, I did a holiday over there last year, and so that's kind of wiped out a lot of my savings. So I'm just saving up this year and just building as well, trying to focus a bit more on releases this year, and then, I don't know, maybe end of this year or summer next year.
Thank you so much, Wax Steve. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to what you'll do next.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for reaching out.